So like when you say you said what was it 62 replies and how many
Mm-hmm.
54 weren't interested?
52
Oh,
weren't interested.
52. What are you sending in the initial email? Because initial email is just, hey, who hires as speakers? So it's kind of like there's nothing for them to not be interested in at that moment.
Well, you see, that was one of the questions I was going to bring up, actually. I'll just read out just a simple pitch, which is taken off the. Okay. Hi, Benji. Quick question that I hope you can help me with. I need to get in touch with the person in charge of hiring entertainment for your corporate conferences, events, and functions. Who would be the best person to talk to? I've got slight variations on that pitch, but essentially that's the pitch. Pretty much taken from what you were doing with Event Finder. What I think is happening is that. You still there, Benji?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What I think is happening is that even though there aren't any links, and I'm just signing it with my name, even though there aren't any links, there's nothing identifying me or who I am. I think what people are doing is that they are looking at the end part of my email address, going along to that, seeing what I'm doing, and just deciding that they're not interested before I've had an opportunity to effectively pitch them.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes people will say they're not interested, and they will give a reason why they're not interested. We don't have any entertainment for our functions. If that's a typical reply, I will still pitch them, saying, well, you still might want to consider maybe bringing me in to, add something different to your next event. But sometimes I'll get people just saying, we're just not interested, we don't have any need for entertainment.
So the reason why, so I can see now, because the reason why they're saying they're not interested is because it sounds like you're sending it to everyone. So it sounds like a spamish email. So you basically want to think along the lines of, can you include like not just their name in terms of like, hey Benji, but also like the company name type thing. So like when you say, hey Benji, would you be interested in bringing in entertainment for your annual Microsoft event that you guys have on XYZ date? So something like that. That's kind of what you need to do, because when people say not interested, they're saying it because when they get it, they're assuming you sent it out to like 100 people, like literally the same thing, and all you did was change the name. And so, so it's more of, you literally want to think along the lines of having a conversation. And so, like what you could even do is you could even, like if you don't actually know the name, you could just send an email like, hey John, do you guys have an annual company event, like an annual event? And you just say something like that. So you don't even say like, would you be interested in, or do you guys hire entertainment? You just say like, hey, do you guys even have an annual event? And so it's literally like, imagine you literally called them up. And if you called up a company where you didn't know, you'd probably ask that first. You'd be like, hey, Microsoft, do you guys even have an annual event where you guys like do anything? And they're like, oh yeah, we actually do. Okay, well, would you be interested in bringing in entertainment? So yeah, you want to think along that lines, and also think along the lines of being like even more direct. So like, can you read back to me what you said again in the email?
Let me just get it for you. Hang on a second. Hi Benji, quick question I hope you can help me with. I'm trying to get in touch with the person responsible for hiring entertainment for your corporate events and functions. Who would be the best person to contact? Who would be the best person to talk to? And I mean, that's pretty close to the what I got off Event Finder.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's more
You
along the
know,
lines, yeah, like you want to think. So what I notice, a lot of people, they tend to change what I have down, um, but there's a reason why it is the way it is, and so you want to think in terms of removing words, not adding words. So like what I have down is literally about 7 words or something, and so when and this is why I created that video of talking like a $1 million speaker type thing, because the more
right.
words you use, the more it sounds like you're not an in-demand speaker. So if you look at anyone who's in demand, not just a speaker, but anyone who's like a CEO, anyone, they use fewer words just because they're more direct and they just get to the point. So they don't say like, hey, yeah, I was kind of thinking, and they're just like, hey, who hires the entertainment for your events? And so it's just like straight to the point. And I was even going to go inside and remove the whole I was wondering, because I think I have the I was wondering who hires the speakers. And so it really just it's just a matter of you say, hey John, who hires the entertainment for your XYZ event? And so that's all you want to do. Um, but yeah, you want to think along the lines of the more it's customized, the less likely you're going to get the whole not interested. Because when people are saying that, they're saying that just because they glance at it and they see like, oh, okay, this clearly isn't for me. This is just it was clearly sent to a ton of people, so they just say not interested. I do the same thing. Like when someone sends me an email, I glance at it, I can see that, oh, it wasn't meant for me. It was just something they generically sent to everybody. So I just say like, oh, take me off your list or something like that. So I do the same thing. But when people clearly
Yeah,
send it to
I
me,
mean, one of the issues that I have is trying to find the leads, trying to find hundreds of leads. It just takes too long if I'm spending time trying to find out when they had an event or if they're having an event.
yeah. So just ask them. So just say like, let's say you go to let's say you go to Microsoft's website and you can't find anything, so you just send an email. Just say, hey Microsoft, do you guys have an annual event? And that's it. And so in fact you could probably even like go on the chat. Well, something big like Microsoft, you could like on the chat, but you just send them any question you have. Just send them an email with that question. So a lot of people, they take too long because they're trying to search for something when all they should have done was just either called or sent an email asking that very same question. And so that's kind of what you want to do, to where it's like if you can't find the right person's contact information, just send whoever an email and say, hey, who's this person I need to talk to? If you can't find the event name, just say, hey, do you guys even have an annual event? Like, what's the name of your annual event? And so that's kind of what you're doing. Just think along those lines. So it's not really about doing like 1,000 leads a week or anything. When I say that, it's more along the lines of I say that because people don't realize how many people they need to contact. So it's just a matter of when I say 1,000 leads a week or however many a week, it's more along the lines of speed, like doing it fast and being efficient at the same time. And so
Right.
yeah, so don't think in terms of 1,000 or 50 or whatever. Just think in terms of doing it fast, being efficient with the whole process, and then whatever question you have, just ask anyone at that company, and then they'll basically give you an answer. And the other thing is when you do ask a question, they always read your next response. So they always read your next email. So when you say like, hey, hey John, I was wondering, do you guys even have an annual event? And they say, oh, yes, we do. Well, at that moment, whenever you respond, you reply to that email, they're definitely going to read it because they know you're a real person. So right now, the hardest part is just getting people to believe that you're a real person behind the emails, just because so many people get emails nowadays from all the spam stuff. So the hardest part is, can you convince them you're a real person sending it to just them? And the second you do that, then it's easier. So that's why, like with that first email, the first email, all it's really designed to do is to kind of say like, hey, I'm sending you an email. Like, Lawrence, I'm sending you an email. And then it's like, all right, Joel, I'm sending you an email. John, I'm sending you an email. And it's not, oh, I'm sending Lawrence, John, and Joel an email all at once. It's more of I'm sending it to you one by one. And then you can get smart with it, like using yesware to make it look like you're sending it one by one. But still, the whole thing comes down to making it look like it's one-on-one, and then just getting straight to the point. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't see much difference between sending an email which says, hi, do you guys have an annual event? I don't see much difference to that as opposed to sending, hi, who hires the entertainment for your corporate event? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're both reasonably short. I can't see how one would be any better than the other.
Yeah, well, no, it's more about like when you don't know the name of their annual event, then you can say something like, hey, do you guys even have an annual event? And so if you know the name, you have to include the name of their annual event in the email. Because otherwise what happens is they read it and they just assume, oh, this is just sent to everyone. And so it's just more along the lines of thinking, how do I just get them to reply back? That's kind of what the first email is. I mean, if you could just say hi and they reply back, then that'd be great. But I don't think people would. It's just a matter of as soon as they reply back, whatever you now reply with, they're guaranteed to open it and they're guaranteed to read that. So it's just a matter of just think along the lines of making the first email short. And honestly, it doesn't matter what you say as long as they reply back, because it's the email after that. That's the email that you want to pay attention to.
Right. Okay.
Right. But yeah, so just think along like the reason why people are saying not interested from the get-go is just because they look at it and they're like, yeah, this is just a spam email that was sent to everybody, and that's literally why. And
I mean, that might be why. That might be one of the reasons. A lot of the times, if people do consider it to be spam, they won't even bother replying.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even take the time to reply.
Yeah, well, some people reply because they don't want you to keep emailing them. So they want you to like take them off a list and stuff. I don't know, because they know people are going to follow up and they have them in the sequences. Because what happens is, so they're thinking from along the standpoint of you have an email automation software that you put them into. And this email automation software, it not only sends them that one email, it now sends them 10 other emails that spread out over time. And so they reply not interested because they're basically saying, no, take me off your other 9 emails you're about to send that's going to be the same thing. So that's why they reply that way. And so, and so the key, the hardest thing nowadays is really just kind of convincing people, yes, this really is a real person behind an email.
Yeah, and the way to do that is to have elements of the email which are pertinent either to them themselves specifically or to their company.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that. The fact of the matter is, though, that contacting hundreds of, as I said, trying to find the information, contact hundreds of companies. I just can't do it. I can't do it on my own because it would take too long. I wouldn't be able to contact hundreds of companies every week. I just wouldn't have the time to do that.
Then contact 50 of them. So it's just a matter of you just contact them. Just keep contacting them. So that's all it comes down to. The only way you're going to get business is if you contact them. That's literally the only way. It's either that or you spend money on Google AdWords, and the only way to make money with that is if you have like an extremely great website, and then you spend a lot of money on AdWords. But
Right.
yeah, it's just a matter. It's what I see happening with almost everyone. I warn everyone of this every single time it happens. Is in the beginning, people get excited. They're like, "Oh, cool." Then they start contacting people. They realize, "Oh, it's not working as fast as I thought it'd be, as I thought it would." Then they slow down. Then they slow down to a point where they're only contacting 10 a week. Then it really doesn't work because they really don't contact anyone. Then they're like, "Oh, this definitely doesn't work." And then they just stop altogether. Then they go and look for some other online thing and do content marketing, Facebook Live, whatever it is. And then they don't get any traction. And it's because if you look at anyone, like any person who succeeded in sales, you'll notice they did it for like a year, like minimum. That's a minimum in terms of contacting people. And the same with even like inbound marketing, which a lot of people won't tell them. Like with inbound marketing, when you read stories of these people who did funnels and they made $1 million in like 2 days and stuff, what they don't tell you is they've been working at it for like 5 years and it didn't work for 5 years, and then finally it worked. And so it's the same with everything, with outbound and everything, to where you're going to be contacting them and then they're going to say not interested and all sorts of stuff, but you just have to keep thinking, if I was them and I was receiving this email, number one, would I open it? Number two, would I reply to it? And number three, would I actually bring this person in? And you got to always think from their standpoint and think from the standpoint of, well, what do I do when I get emails from people? So like, which emails do you respond to and why did you respond to it? And things like that. And then you'll notice you'll start writing better emails and all sorts of stuff. So just focus on that. Don't focus on, it doesn't matter if you contact eight people in a month. If those 8 people hired you, that's better than contacting 1,000 people in a day. So it doesn't really matter in terms of the number, but they're usually correlated. And so that's why I keep telling people you want to contact a lot.
I remember seeing one of your video things, which was contacting is finding. Was on one of the slides. The process of contacting people is just the very first step.
Yeah.
So it's only if you contact someone and then you find whether or not they actually are interested or do have entertainment or do have conferences.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do have some kind of function. And I remember what you previously said on other calls where you have to be contacting hundreds, sometimes thousands of people every week to just get the few that really are interested, because contacting is finding.
Yeah.
So I know that some people are just going to just not reply. That's just the nature of it. But some people do, and the people that I am contacting are the people who are involved in some way, shape, or form with the organisation of their company events. So even though I'm asking the question, do you know who is responsible? More often than not, it's going to be them. It is going to be them. So I'm asking them, I'm directing it to the right person. So I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing, Benji. Like I said to you, I think a couple of weeks ago, I'm doing this full time, and I'll carry on doing it for as long as I can. But eventually it will come to the point where I won't be able to do it anymore, primarily because of just for financial reasons more than anything else.
And so you want to think along the lines of getting the easy wins. So it's like trade shows is actually very easy to find. Like if you were to go to tsnn.com and then just contact all the exhibitors at those trade shows, they have the exhibitor list. You can just get an exhibitor list and just go through all of them and just start contacting them. To me, something like that is an easy win, because trade shows, they definitely want to build a bigger crowd and all that stuff. So like trade shows and then and like colleges, because those are easy places to find, colleges and high schools. They're easy to find, they're easy to contact, and they tend to reply a lot, especially like high schools. And so think along the lines of that as well, like who's actually replying to you. So and that's kind of what you're figuring out. So just focus on those.
Yeah, I have received responses from high schools and colleges. Those are the ones that do seem to respond. But a lot of the times it's difficult trying to actually nail them down. It's like, send me your information, so I do, and I try to pitch them, but then I'm not getting any follow up, right? Any feedback back from that.
Yeah, and so the reason is so you want to improve your website. Like it's like what Elio was doing every single weekend. He was improving his website, and then now it's a lot easier for him to get gigs just because the website is better. So it's like when people get your information and then you no longer hear from them, is because of your website. So it just comes down to, in the beginning, it's all right. How do you contact them? Once you give them your website and they kind of never hear back from them, then it's a matter of it's because you need to improve your site. So you want to think along the lines of throughout the week you're contacting people, but you're also thinking like, let me spend an hour today on improving the website and coming up with ideas like let's see, like Jonathan's website, the designs, that's going to help him get events a whole lot faster than what he has up right now. Like I don't know if you've seen his website right now. In fact, are you watching the Facebook Live?
I'm not right at the moment, no.
Okay, so like if you go to jonathanwatson.org, that's his website right now, and so it's like you'll notice the images, they're not nearly as good and everything on his current website, but the images on the posts that he recently made, it looks very clean, very professional. If I were to go to this website that he's about to put up versus the current website, I would say, okay, yeah, let's bring this guy in. The website that he has right now, I would say, nah, this guy's not a pro. Like I would ignore him. Like if they said, all right, if he said, oh yeah, he's like, who brings in the speakers? And I say, oh, I do. Oh, here's my website. And I look at it, I would say, nah, not interested. And then I just ignore him. But if he were to send me his other website that he's about to put up, and I looked at it, I would say, okay, yeah, let's bring this guy in. And so that's why I keep saying you got to improve the website. And you can contact a million people, but if your website isn't great, then it's gonna be hard to get to the end. And so it's more along the lines of everything.
I mean, that's one of the things I did do. I did spruce up the website. In one of our previous calls, I think you looked at the website, and you seem to think it was good.
Yeah, well, it's good enough.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's good enough to contact, but you have to keep improving it. So, like, all right, so I just got $30,000 for an event. I'm still improving my website, and so it's not just, oh, I did it. It's more of I'm doing it. It's more of every single time I'm thinking, how do I improve this thing? Because that's what's going to get you on stages, and it's why I see so many people. They struggle because they're like, oh, okay, I did it. And I did it a year ago. And it's like, no, you have to keep doing it. It's why, like, Tony Robbins, if anyone could have stopped marketing, it could have been Tony Robbins. But this dude, I think he just improved his website, like, I don't know, last month or something. Like, they updated the site. And it's like, if anyone could have stopped updating their website, it could have been Tony Robbins. But he just keeps updating it. And so it's the same thing to where you keep thinking, well, how can I improve this? And how can I improve it? And that's kind of what you're doing. And by doing that, when you do send out your website, you're more likely to get hired.
Right. Okay. I mean, I have had some positive feedback from the website, not because of the email marketing that I've been doing, but because of gigs that I've been able to get through Gig Salad. You know, a couple of people have actually, so because I've asked them, you know, well, what made you choose me above the other performers? And a couple of people have said, really liked your website. So I think I'm on the right track. I take on board what you're saying about constantly improving your website. I'll just have to wait and see, Benji.
Yeah,
I just have to wait and see.
Yeah, you want to ignore all positive feedback. Like whenever someone says "great job" or ignore all that stuff. It's like that quote that Bill Gates said. I can't remember the exact words, but he was like, basically, success is your enemy. Like when people say "great job," you have a great website, all that stuff, you now become comfortable and you stop getting better. And now you end up wondering, oh, why is this not working? So whenever someone tells me "good job" or "oh, it looks amazing," I ignore it and like literally ignore it because it's not helpful at all.